Your tractor isn't breaking down because it's old. It's breaking down because engineers made it that way. Every so-called smart feature added in the last 20 years was sold as progress, but in reality, it chipped away at the reliability farmers depended on. From ignition locks that won't let you start to filters that choke engines, these aren't upgrades. They're ticking time bombs. One hidden feature drains your tractor, slowly eats batteries, and leaves you stranded without warning. Keep watching to find out which one, starting with the most annoying of all. Feature number 23, electronic ignition locks. They promised modern security. What they really gave you was one more way to get stranded. Old tractors ran on trust. A key, a turn, and the engine fired. Today, that same action runs through an electronic lock that has to shake hands with the onboard computer before anything turns over. It only takes dust in the connector, a weak battery, or one glitch in the wiring for the system to shut you out. Suddenly, you're standing in the middle of a job with a tractor that thinks you're a thief. Farmers have lost entire days of work waiting for a service truck to reprogram an ignition that never should have failed in the first place. And when it breaks, the cost is brutal. $600 to $1,200 that a steel key never needed. The old padlock on the barn door never left you stranded, and that's exactly why this next one feels like a straight-up betrayal. Feature number 22, GPS kill switches. They pitched it as theft prevention. What it really is a leash you never asked for. GPS kill switches let companies track and remotely disable tractors. Sounds useful until you're halfway through disking a slope and the module glitches. One bad signal, one hiccup, and your machine powers down. Hydraulics frozen, steering gone, and load dragging into the dirt. Farmers have had to tow dead tractors home, only to be told the dealer had to resync the system. And it's not just malfunctions. Some companies keep ultimate control. Miss a payment, void a warranty clause, and they can lock you out remotely. Progress isn't supposed to make you less free, and that's why the next feature feels even more like a trap. Feature number 21, overly sensitive emission sensors. Clean air comes at a cost, and it's usually your uptime. Modern tractors are packed with emission sensors designed to keep exhaust gases within limits, but they're so sensitive that the slightest change, dust, a hiccup in fuel quality, even cold weather, throws the system into panic. Suddenly, you're in limp mode, crawling at 5 miles an hour, or worse, parked with no restart until the dealer resets it. Farmers have spent hundreds replacing sensors that were never broken, only misreading. Each one costs $500, $700, and downtime costs more than that. And that leads straight into the next nightmare. But hey, if this video is waking you up to the scam of smart tractors, hit that subscribe button. Feature number 20, diesel particulate filters, DPF. They called it innovation. Farmers call it a curse. Diesel particulate filters trap soot and then regenerate by heating up and burning it off. On paper, it keeps emissions low. In practice, it clogs faster than it clears. Short trips, cold weather, or heavy idling all stop the burn-off cycle, and soon your tractor is coughing, losing power, and lighting up the dash with warnings. Some owners have had to stop midfield and run forced regions that waste fuel and waste hours. Others have replaced filters for more than $3,000 before the machine even hit 1,500 hours. And the downtime is worse than the price tag. A clogged DPF doesn't just cut power. It can take an entire planting day off the calendar, which is exactly the kind of sabotage the next system piles on. Feature number 19, DEF systems, AdBlue. This one was marketed as the final touch to keep diesels clean. It sprays a urea solution into the exhaust to neutralize emissions. Sounds clever until winter comes. DEF freezes solid below 12 degrees Fahrenheit. If your tank, lines, or pump ice up, the tractor simply refuses to start. Farmers in northern states have had to keep heaters running just to stop the fluid from turning into a block of ice. Even in warm climates, pumps fail, sensors misread, and injectors clog. Repairs often climb past $2,000, all for a system that does nothing to make your machine run better or last longer. But this next so-called upgrade feels like another bad joke. Feature number 18, electronic throttles. They took one of the most reliable controls on a tractor, a simple steel cable, and replaced it with fragile electronics. Old throttles were mechanical, direct, and tough. Push the lever, pull the cable, fuel flowed, engine responded. Now the throttle runs through sensors, wires, and modules that hate dust and vibration. When the signal misfires, the engine stumbles or refuses to rev, and farmers report delays in power when they need torque instantly, like pulling out of soft soil. Worse, when the throttle system fails completely, you're not moving anywhere until the electronics are replaced. Repairs often run $800 to $1,500. all for something a cable used to do for decades without complaint. That's not an upgrade, it's engineered. But the next safety system only adds another layer of frustration. Feature number 17, automatic transmission lockouts. They call it a safety feature, but it feels like a booby trap. Modern tractors now come with transmission lockouts that cut power when the computer thinks something's wrong. One false reading, one glitch in a speed sensor, and suddenly you're stuck in gear, or worse, frozen in neutral. Imagine pulling a load uphill and the transmission locks out mid-pull. It's not just annoying, it's dangerous. Farmers have lost precious hours trying to diagnose why a perfectly good gearbox won't shift. And when it's the computer, not the mechanics, there's nothing to repair in the field. You wait for a laptop, a dealer, and a bill. Meanwhile, older machines with mechanical gear levers keep grinding away with no complaints. This next layer of electronics will make you wonder why simple hydraulics were ever changed. Feature number 16, hydraulic pressure sensors. Hydraulics used to be the heart of reliability. A solid pump, strong lines, and a lever. That was it. Now they've laced hydraulics with delicate electronic sensors that constantly watch for changes in pressure. Sounds smart, but here's what happens when one goes bad. The entire system shuts down. Instead of lifting, lowering, or powering your implement, the tractor just sits there, lights flashing, waiting for diagnostics. One $50 sensor can trigger thousands in downtime. And the irony? Often nothing's wrong. The sensor just misread vibration or temperature. Farmers have had to replace entire valve blocks because the computer refused to believe the system was safe. The cost? Easily $1,000, $2,000. If you think sensors are bad, wait until diagnostics themselves become a ransom note. Feature number 15, onboard diagnostic computers. Tractors used to tell you everything with sound, smell, and a few gauges. Now you need a laptop just to know why it won't start. Onboard diagnostic computers monitor everything and throw error codes for anything. But here's the catch, you can't read them without dealer software. That means a 5-minute repair is locked behind a service call that costs hundreds. Farmers have reported error codes for things as simple as loose fuel caps, but the tractor won't clear them until the computer says so. The machine works perfectly fine, but you can't use it until someone with a laptop gives permission. It's not maintenance, it's control. These diagnostics were sold as smarter repairs. In reality, they keep you dependent on the dealer. And if computers weren't enough, software locks turn independence into an illusion. Feature number 14, proprietary software locks. This one takes frustration to a new level. Even if you fix the problem, you might not be allowed to use your own tractor until the software approves it. Manufacturers lock critical systems behind codes that only dealers can access. Replace a sensor? Computer still says no. Swap a part, the machine won't acknowledge it until software authorizes the repair. Farmers have been forced to haul machines back to dealers for resets that should take seconds. Costs run from $200 to over $1,000 for the privilege of getting back what you already fixed. And the insult? These are your machines, your tools, your fields, but the company holds the keys. With every locked repair, they prove it's not about reliability, it's about control. And if locks weren't enough, the next upgrade fails before the job is even done. Feature number 13, smart cooling fans. Cooling used to be simple. A belt-driven fan spinning off the engine, always there when you needed it. Now, manufacturers use electronically controlled fans that promise efficiency but deliver headaches. These fans rely on sensors, modules, and software to adjust speed. When they work, fine. When they don't, your engine cooks. A loose connection, a bad relay, or one fried control unit can stop the fan cold, leaving the temperature needle spiking into the red. Unlike a belt you can swap in the barn, these failures mean waiting on parts that cost $500 or more. Farmers report engines overheating mid-field because the fan never kicked in, even though the machine was begging for airflow. And when heat damage sets in, you're not looking at a fan repair. You're looking at warped heads, blown gaskets, or worse. If the fan fails, the next digital dashboard makes things even worse. Feature number 12, digital dashboards. Once upon a time, tractors had gauges, solid mechanical dials that told you everything at a glance. Now they've been replaced with glossy digital screens. They look sleek in the showroom, but in the field they're fragile and unreliable. Sun glare makes them unreadable. Dust creeps under the glass. Moisture fries the circuits. One farmer reported losing all readouts in the middle of baling. No fuel gauge, no temperature, nothing. Just a dead screen. And replacement isn't cheap. A new digital cluster can run $1,500 to $3,000. Plus, labor. Worse, when the display fails, you're not just blind to engine stats, you might lose access to functions entirely because controls are buried in menus. And if the dash makes you blind, the next feature can kill your tractor for just sitting wrong in the seat. Feature number 11, seat occupancy sensors. Safety was the excuse. Frustration was the result. Seat sensors shut down the tractor if they think no one's in the cab. On paper, it prevents accidents. In reality, it prevents work. Farmers bouncing over rough ground report engines cutting out because the sensor thought they'd left the seat. Others have been forced to bypass the system just to keep the machine running while standing to check implements. Repairs aren't cheap either. $300 for a sensor that does nothing to improve performance. Older tractors never cared if you leaned, stood, or shifted. They cared only if the engine was running. These new ones care more about weight on a cushion than acres getting done. And just when you thought it couldn't get sillier, the PTO itself got digitized. Feature number 10, electronic PTO engagement. A lever used to be all it took. Push it forward, the PTO spun. Pull it back, it stopped. Now, engineers replace that lever with computer-controlled switches. They look neat, but fail constantly. Farmers report PTOs that refuse to engage because a sensor misread a signal. Others lose power mid-cut because the module glitched. Instead of fixing it with a wrench, you're stuck replacing switches, wiring harnesses, or controllers that cost over $1,000. And when the system fails, you're not baling, mowing, or planting. Your implements sit idle until a dealer clears the fault. Meanwhile, an old mechanical lever worked every time. And if that wasn't fragile enough, the wiring holding it all together is even worse. Feature number 9, CAN bus wiring. In the old days, if a light went out, you fixed the wire. If a switch failed, you swapped it. Each system ran independently. Now, everything is tied into a single nervous system called a CAN bus wiring. It's supposed to simplify, but in reality, it means one tiny short can cripple the entire machine. Farmers have reported losing lights, hydraulics, and PTOs all at once because a single wire corroded. Diagnosing these problems isn't simple either. You can't just trace a line. You need software to scan the whole system. Repairs often run thousands because replacing one section can mean tearing apart panels and modules. And if wiring can take you down, the next safety layer will drive you crazy. Feature number 8, safety interlocks everywhere. Once, tractors had a handful of common-sense safety measures. Now they're loaded with interlocks that treat the operator like a liability instead of a worker. Hoods, gates, doors, even seat belts. If one sensor misreads, the whole machine refuses to move. Farmers have had tractors that wouldn't start because the hood latch sensor thought it was open, or hydraulics that wouldn't engage because the cab door wasn't closed correctly. One loose connection, one corroded contact, and you're spending an afternoon troubleshooting a machine that worked perfectly fine yesterday. The parts themselves aren't cheap either. A single hood sensor can cost $200 plus labor. Old tractors trusted you to know when something was unsafe. Today's versions second-guess every move, stalling work over phantom risks. Instead of preventing accidents, these systems cause downtime. And as if sensors weren't enough, even your keys aren't safe anymore. Feature number 7, keyless start systems. Manufacturers sold it as convenience. No more keys, just a fob in your pocket. But what they really added was a new way to get stranded. Keyless systems rely on electronic code sent between the fob and the tractor. When that signal drops, whether from interference, a weak battery, or a glitch, you're not starting anything. Farmers have had tractors refuse to crank during harvest, all because the fob wasn't detected. Replacements cost hundreds, sometimes over $500, and reprogramming requires a dealer. Lose the fob entirely? You're not working until you pay up. Older steel keys never failed unless you bent them. These new systems fail because the weather's cold, the fob's battery died, or the receiver hiccuped. It's another example of tech that takes away reliability in exchange for style. And when it comes to fueling, the next feature proves even worse. Feature number 6, over-engineered fuel injection. Fuel delivery used to be tough as nails. Mechanical pumps pushed diesel reliably for decades. Now we're saddled with ultra-high-pressure electronic injectors. They're precise, sure, but they're also delicate. Dust, water, or a single bad tank of fuel can fry them. Farmers have seen injectors fail under 1,000 hours, leaving engines coughing and powerless. Replacements can cost $600 per injector, and most engines need 4 to 6. Add labor, and you're staring down thousands for something a mechanical pump could have avoided entirely. Worse, when one injector fails, the whole system suffers. Old engines ran on thick, forgiving parts. Today's injectors are fragile glass under constant strain, and that fragility only gets worse once the turbo itself gets smarter. Feature number 5, Turbo Smart Controls. Turbos used to be mechanical marvels. Spin up, add air, make power. Now, manufacturers lace them with electronic vane controls. On paper, this allows finer performance. In reality, it's just another part waiting to stick. Farmers report tractors losing power because the electronic turbo vanes jammed mid-adjustment. Instead of limping along with reduced boost, the whole engine drops into limp mode. Repairs aren't cheap either. A replacement turbo with electronic controls can run $2,000 to $3,000. Contrast that with old mechanical turbos that spun for decades with little more than oil and a cleaning. The so-called smart system doesn't improve durability, it shortens it. And if turbos can strand you, wait until software starts shutting the whole tractor down. Feature number 4, auto shutdown timers. Idle time used to mean rest for the machine. Now it means risk. Auto shutdown systems were designed to save fuel by killing the engine after a few minutes of idling. Sounds efficient until you're in the middle of running hydraulics or waiting for conditions to change, and the system cuts the power. Constant restarts hammer starters, batteries, and oil pressure. Farmers report wearing through starters in a fraction of the time, with replacements running $400 to $800. And that's before considering the frustration of a tractor shutting down when you needed it running. Old machines idled as long as you wanted. These new ones decide for you, usually at the worst possible moment. And if that sounds bad, the next layer of connectivity makes it even worse. Feature number 3, remote diagnostics. Remote diagnostics let manufacturers monitor your tractor's systems over the air, promising faster service. But in reality, these systems log your every move, hours, speed, usage, and can remotely intervene when they see fit. Farmers have had machines slow down or enter limp mode after a communication error with the server. Others discovered updates pushed remotely that bricked features they relied on. And if the warranty expires, any failure caused by a bad update is on your dime. Old tractors never needed Wi-Fi to run. These new ones need constant digital babysitting, and when the signal drops, you're the one stranded. What was supposed to prevent breakdowns, but this next one feels downright dangerous. Feature number 2, electric brake systems. Brakes used to be bulletproof. Mechanical or hydraulic, they worked as long as you maintained them. Now we're seeing tractors with electronic brake systems that rely on sensors and actuators instead of direct force. That means one glitch in the circuit and your brakes stop behaving the way they should. Farmers have reported parking brakes that refuse to release, or worse, systems that fail mid-run and send the machine skidding. Repairing them is a nightmare. Actuators cost hundreds, modules cost thousands, and none of it can be fixed in the barn. The next feature quietly kills tractors even when they're sitting parked. Feature number 1, battery-hungry electronics. Modern tractors never sleep. Even when you turn them off, the electronics keep sipping juice. GPS modules, diagnostic units, sensors, they all draw power constantly. Farmers have returned after a week only to find dead batteries in brand new machines. One AGM battery might cost $300, but downtime in the field costs far more. Worse, these systems drain batteries faster in cold weather, leaving you stranded when you need power most. A machine that can't hold charge isn't reliable, it's a liability. Which of these features do you find the most unnecessary? Let us know in the comments below. If you learned something new today, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. See you in the next one.